I'm Jerrel, and this is my custom nylon mandolin. So this is just a typical soprano ukulele, and I've converted it into a mandolin that uses nylon strings. So I'm quite big on mandolins. I do a lot of composing and recording, and I need to be able to get um, a wide range of interesting voices. So I need to make sure that in my studio I can record heaps of different sounds so that my music doesn't all sound the same. So this is an instrument that I'm very happy with. I believe the bass instrument costs probably around 40 US dollars. And you can see I've added some tuners. So before I explain the process, I just want to say hello. Thank you for watching the video. Thanks for clicking on it. But I'm not a YouTuber. I'm just some guy, and I'm just sharing stuff that I enjoy. So I'm not a YouTuber. I don't have a cool catchphrase. I don't have merch. I don't have a Patreon. I'm not going to ask you to subscribe, but I will ask a favor of you. And that favor is I want you to be yourself. We've all been in situations where we were around other people, and for some reason or another, due to whatever weird expectation we think other people have for us, we do or we say something that isn't really us, and then we end up just pretending to be someone because we think we'll fit in more, which is really weird. It's normal. It's normal to want to fit in and be accepted by others, but at what cost? So I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe, but the favor I'm going to ask is the next time you're in a situation like that, just think about it and don't do something that is opposite to who you are and who you want to be. The next time you're in a situation like that, do what you want to do, say what you want to say, and be yourself, and don't have to fake being something you're not for other people. That's what I'm asking for you today. So what I did on this instrument was I used a Dremel tool with a cutting disc to cut extra slots so that I can fit the extra strings. I believe this is still the this is a plastic saddle. Gross. I need to replace this. This is a plastic saddle. I need to replace it with bone. I didn't really feel like it at the time. It's a cheap instrument. Again, you get these for about 35, 40 US dollars. I would personally replace this with bone, but I didn't have time when I was putting this together. So something that happened with these higher strings is that they actually snapped the slot, if you have a look there. So I actually drilled straight into the body, and you can see two holes, so you can see the two strings going straight into the body. I have seen these on strange, cheaper ukuleles that come from China. I suppose it's cheaper to make them that way. It's faster. So what you do is you drill a hole straight in, you feed the string in, and then you sort of have to feed the string up out the sound hole, and then you tie a knot into that. So I actually tied ball ends that come off, steel guitar strings. I tied on those ball ends, and then I pulled it back through. So those are keeping those in there. Now there's a difficulty. I've had numerous the high strings snap. I suppose I don't think I cut enough of a slot on the back side of the saddle there, so it was quite sharp, so they kept snapping. So that's something. I'll go ahead and pause the video and I'll grab the tools and I'll show you what I used to cut the slots out for those. But the tuning is the same as a typical mandolin, and you'll see that the sound is much warmer and softer, but in a way it's much more strident as well, particularly on the top strings, depending on where you hit it. So it can be a bit strident depending on how you play it. Now my concern with this particular instrument was because there isn't really a whole lot of bracing in there. I did stick my grown-up hands in there as far as I could to feel for any bracing, and there didn't seem to be any significant bracing on there, which is interesting because I have other ukuleles from the Mahalo range that do have bracing in there. This one did not, so I was concerned. And this has been stabilized over maybe the past 6 or 7 months or so. And you can see there is a minor amount of warping, but it has not gotten worse. So this is stable. I'm quite happy with the timbre of this instrument, and I think it sounds fantastic. I really enjoyed playing it. So you can see I made an error here. I was sort of experimenting. I accidentally, my first run, I put the new pegs that I've added, I put them too close, and then I wasn't able to turn them because they were too close. So when I do a second revision of this, I'll just, from the get-go, I'll make sure that these secondary pegs are a bit farther away. Now the reason why I use these pegs that are not geared, they're just one-to-one pegs, is because there isn't enough space on this headstock for more geared tuners. I would not be able to fit them in there, but I can fit these one-to-one pegs. So that made it quite a bit easier. Now it is a bit struggle up here as well. Luckily, it just worked out that it works and holds tuning, and these generally don't clash. But when I do make a second revision, again, this was an experiment to see if it would work, and it did work. So now I have a good starting point. When I make a second revision, I'm going to put these pegs probably out to the side a bit, and I may put string trees in there to stop them from having a sharp angle here at the nut. I'm just going to pause it and I'll be right back. All right, so these are the nut slot, or the nut file tools that I use. I'll try and grab a link and put it in the description or a comment. Again, I'm not sponsored or anything. I wouldn't get any kickback, but just so you know what to look for. You can probably grab these for around $10 to $15, and they'll last you a number of projects before they get too dull and they won't be useful. There are a few different shapes. I think there are a couple duplicate files, but in general, these nut files or saddle files, bridge files, they come in different shapes. So they are a little bit too big for every project. So there are another set of smaller files which would benefit you. But say, for example, some of them have quite sharp edges. This isn't one of them, I just randomly grabbed one. But how I cut extra slots in the bridge and the saddle is I use these tools, and generally I'll get like a business card and just tape it down so I don't risk damaging the headstock and the fretboard and the top there, as well as one minor slip up and you're going to damage that instrument. So it's a little hair raising having to cut the strings that are left over. I tie a knot in there and then I feed them through, and then I use one of these tools. But if you're not very careful, you can really accidentally bruise the body, which you can fix, but it's a pain bruising that and then having to go back and fix it later. So I'll just play that a little bit more. The mandolin family is generally my favorite family of instruments to play, and I usually I have nylon string versions of each member of the family, just to increase the variety I have when I'm composing music. And it just has this beautiful warm sound that it fills in a different space in music, and it sounds great when you're playing along with other musicians as well. That's that. It has weak tonal fortitude. If this back touches your body, you're really going to get your sound's going to be quite muted. If you make any contact with the top, it's going to be quite muted. I try to stay away from that, and I usually just very lightly rest my hand along the bridge or on the strings that I'm not playing. So it's not a professional quality instrument. The tuning stability is quite weak. I would not ever take this thing on stage. It's certainly not good enough for that. But for jams, if you've got a couple people hanging out in a room and you're jamming, or even at a music club and it's a quieter environment, it's not like a pub, then this is plenty good enough for that, but not anywhere near what you need for performing on stage in any sort of professional capacity. Recording in a studio, yeah, absolutely, that'll do it. So the parts for this, these pegs, you'll probably find these pegs online. I grabbed them on eBay. You're probably looking at maybe $6-7, somewhere around there. The extra strings, these are all ukulele strings. So if you were to get a low G ukulele string set that has these wound strings at the bottom, then these are all the strings you need to tune like a mandolin. And I didn't really have to do any other work. I left these tuning machines just the way they are. And again, I used the files to cut out those slots on the nut and the saddle. This is plastic. What do you expect? It's an entry-level instrument that's quite cheap. This is plastic. In the future, I will replace this with bone, and that should help the tone be warmer and richer, and it'll help with the transmission of vibrations from the string to the top, as plastic isn't really great at that. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. And what's great about these ukuleles, they're Mahalos. It's really basically their lowest priced ones, and they come in a great range of colors. So if this is a project that you want to take on, then that would be a cool way to pick a color that you really like. You can have your own custom instrument. You'll need a Dremel tool to cut those extra slots, but mine again broke down there, so I just used a drill, and you can see I just drilled a fine hole down in there. But it's a lot easier if you can just cut those slots with a Dremel. Okay, that's all I wanted to share with you today. I hope you are all well. Take care of yourselves, and here is my cool YouTube catchphrase. All right, I'll see you.